We are here for many, many reasons today. Foremost, it's to celebrate the life of Dianne and the influence and effect that she had on all of us. So we're here to share our love for her with one another. The entire range of human emotions is welcome here today. What often happens at our memorial services is that people find themselves laughing about things, crying about things. That's all welcome. It's all part of the human expression. And part of our healing rite is also to enjoy a feast together. There is food in the back, and we're going to actually put some of it up on the altar also for Dianne and for the gods and goddesses to share with. A place will be left for her and a plate will be prepared. Feel free to continue to share your memories throughout the meal. After this, we'll begin the actual healing rite. Because Dianne was an important agent in an organization called the Troth, which I am currently the president of, and these two gentlemen to my right are the founders of, the opening eulogies will be conducted by us, first by Edward Dorson, and then by James Chisholm, and then by me. Once they're completed, then these horns will remain on the altar. Once this begins, this one will have alcohol in it, this one will have no alcohol in it. Both are equal in our eye, so people may drink from either one. You can follow our lead, but the way this will usually go is that whoever is moved to get up and speak a eulogy, come over, take the horn, say their words, and then say Hail Dianne. We will have cups up here for people who are feeling sick or under the weather so that we don't spread any little nasty bugs from one person to another. And so you just pour some of that into the cup. When you're done, you can drip a little bit into this bowl. This bowl is fairly shallow, so we're just going to keep it a little bit at a time. And we'll guide you through that as we're going through. When you're finished, just say the word Hail, and everybody else can say Hail alongside. It's actually probably not nearly as complicated as I'm making it sound, so it'll be all right. After all everybody's finished with their eulogies, then we will be singing a song or two, and Jim will take the ashes around so everybody can get one final blessing, and then we will complete the rite. So it's not a lot complicated, but it probably sounds a lot more complicated since people are not too familiar with it just yet. We will observe moments of silence and contemplation to remember her life, and her contributions. And then after that, we will receive the final cleansing of birch, which has been flown in. And then we will cut the saber's face. So Dianne was a caring and joyous woman. She really was. I think that most of us know that. We're very overwhelmed by her, just her sense of humor, which could range from the silly to the downright ribald. That's what made her so much fun to be around. And she would welcome newcomers as though they were old friends. She was very hospitable in that regard. And so it's also very appropriate for us all to meet one another today in that same vein and get to know one another and see how Dianne influenced each other's lives. So with that being said, let us go ahead and start eating, and we will take things from there. Thank you. All right, folks, you may continue eating, but I do want to read this one poem from this book, The Poetry of Luark. If you look at the program, it's listed there. It's on page 5. However, the text that's in the program doesn't quite match what's in the book because Laura just found the book, I guess, in the last couple of days. And the book, I think, is a little more striking, so I'm going to read from here. You have to pardon me,
Who he is.
yeah, well, my Welsh, I'm not a fluent speaker of Welsh, so, no. But Luark N, Dianne Luark Ross, that's no coincidence. Apparently, you guys have been able to trace back your heritage to Luark N. He was a poet in the 6th century, and so this is pretty much how should I say, an heirloom, a treasured heirloom of Welsh, of Welsh culture.
A prince and a poet.
And prince and poet. That's true. I think there was some of the LLs in the beginning of names and royal nobility or something. So. So I will give this a shot. And I always screw up. A little spitball that. Right. No, but in all seriousness, this is called Mine Win When I Was Your Age. Fair mind, when I was your age, my cloak was not trampled with feet. My land was not plowed without bloodshed. Fair mind, when I was like you, with my young men following me, the enemy did not violate my border. Mine win. Fair mind, when I was like you, in pursuit of my youth, the enemy did not like my wrath. Fair mind, when I was strong, I was fierce in slaughter. My deed was a man's, though I was a lad. Fair mind, consider prudently, the need for counsel is neglected. Let male win, seek another steward. My choice is the prince with his armor, about him sharp like a thorn. Wetting this stone is no vain act. I have been robbed of a gift from the valley of Fiernoian, concealed in a pitcher with sharp iron. Odin was killed. Blessed be the distant hag who said from the door of her hut, fair mind, do not leave your blade behind.
Begin by singing some rules. We're going to intone rules 3 times each, and you will approach this as sounds, and they will evoke their power through that. The first one involves journey, arrival. The second one rewards read by action, era. The third one is Hernandez, which is torch, last term. Then was a seed planted in the earth, which will grow. And finally, manas, which is our spirit and our humanity.
This was written by Garrison Mark, who is not able to be here today. A poem for Dianne. Your many poems for Dianne. Sonnet for Beauty by Garrison Mark, 2018. A sonnet hovers hidden in the wings, a ballerina poised with timid care. The quiet thunder in her fire brings the honesty of passion filled with prayer. Remember how the moonlight often sings when we embrace the fantasies we dare. The taste of golden mead, a feast of kings, the wild, courageous kisses lovers share. This poem is that heartbeat of desire, an offering for how we wish to live. For in each loving moment, we are fire, a bright and sacred gift we choose to give. Your beauty will forever be a part of who we are with one inspired heart.
While he's getting libations ready, I'm going to just comment on the runes that we saw in the beginning. Within Pennsylvania German tradition, there are different phases to the departure of one from this realm. The first is the journey of life, but also the journey into death, which is represented by the Rilo rune. Second is Yera, which in our case we call it Yor, but it is representing of the commending of the body back to the soil. It's commending part of the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Third phase, represented by Kanaz, which is it's a torch, but we see it within our folklore as being the time between lives, when your eternal self, the higher self, continues in the darkness, and when you come out in your next life, you do not remember everything that you experienced. Next is Ingwaz, which represents the planting of the seed, as Edward said. In our case, we look at it as the construction of a whole new soul construct for preparation to rebirth into the next life. And Amanaz is the eternal evolution that we're all on towards the perfected human, towards being the best that we as a species or an entity can become. And so we some of those rooms following that, and again, this one is the one that has alcohol, and this is the one that does not have alcohol. If you've never consumed beverage from a horn before, we call it a heathen baptism, where people hold the horn the wrong way and it kind of belches air back out and splashes on, so kind of keep the horn down.
And then we have cups as well.
Yes, we have the cup in case people want to use those.
I'd like to say a few words about Dianne and her life and what she meant to me, and what I think in one part of her life she meant. And that is that Dianne was a seeker, someone who was constantly in search of the miraculous, in search of some miraculous meaning. And most important thing to know about her is that a lot of people seek this miraculous. Not everyone finds it, but Dianne did find it. And she found it many times over, in many places, over, in many different ways, over. And I am part of her search and her finding in at least one of those areas, and that is what you're seeing here, the Germanic tradition. And just as an example, we say, well, what is miraculous about it? Well, she was searching for things, and she, in old days, we put ads in newspapers for things. This is before the internet. This was in the mid-'80s, late '80s. And put an ad in the paper. She said, I think I would like to do that. this thing, and so she tore my hand out. And she, back in those days, her car, she kind of was adventuring all over the place, and there, and a lot of stuff was in her car. It was like full of stuff. It looked like somebody was camping in there, and they, I guess, were every once in a while. And so she was just, it's all kinds of stuff in there. And this little piece of paper, as it will, gets lost in there. And so, but then at a certain moment in time, it reemerges like out of the sea. And here it is. Oh, this. And so then contact was made with this person. And I don't say, hey, by the way, I'm an author of these book and that kind of a thing. No, it was just enigmatic. And so she just at the same time gone to her local bookstore that she liked called Papa Jim's that existed here in San Antonio, and found a book that she just fell in love with, that just seemed to speak to her, that just seemed to be the thing she was looking for. And this book was called A Rune Lore by Edward Thorson. And so then we got together, you are this person. And so that is pretty weird, that whole chain of events. And probably, to a certain extent, she being attuned to things that she was. So this is a sign. This is something that I'm interested in, but this is something, this is a message from the universe as to, and I never had to teach Dianne and say, this is what we need to be doing, Dianne. This is the way we need to be thinking, Dianne. No. She already knew it, or she was already of that mind when she first articulated her interest. It was already there. And of course, she had a background. She was a longtime seeker of the miraculous. Do we have any of her friends from the Gurdjieff group here at all? No?
Yvonne?
Huh? Oh?
Yvonne? Yvonne, hi. Yes.
So she had been seeking teaching of profound nature for a long time in her life. She was interested in the Gurdjieff work, and she participated in it, and she was a person who was respected and known in that community at the highest and most prestigious levels of that culture. And I think in that she gained a awareness of the value of not just learning from books, not just reading and then making up your own version of it and going on from there, but to have a connection with someone who has been there, who has done the work ahead of you. Not that you were going to do it exactly the way they did it, of course, but that you have access to the living tradition. And that was something I think she absorbed from the Gurdjieff teaching, and why her ability to seek the miraculous, to know it when she found it, and to then, with all attention and a almost supernatural level of determination, will, focus, and again the word attention is probably one of her favorite words, to pay attention to things that are happening out there in here, that she sought the miraculous, and she had the ability to find the miraculous. And when she found it, she embraced it. And she followed it from that day to her end of days. And that is something that I will always remember about Dianne, always admire about Dianne, and something that when I look out, not in this room, but when I look out over the people I know who follow this kind of tradition and do this kind of work, I, over the years, become increasingly admiring of her, because I see how rare, how precious that level of attention, devotion to the work that she had, how rare that actually is. And anyone who, and everyone here who has met Dianne, knew her in any of the realms of her life, will attest she is a person that none of us here will ever forget. We will remember her as we remember ourselves. And self-remembering was that thing she brought to us from the Virgin teachings. Hail, Dianne.
Hail, Dianne! Dianne Luark Ross, she ran the Troth, she answered the mail. Idunna got done, we all drank good ale. She worked in paint, she worked in clay, she worked in wood, and she worked in spade. Dianne Luark Ross. She copied books, she found them too. Those crumbling tomes were far too few. She made good mead, she brought good cheer. Hearth and heart were warm throughout the year. She made good mead fit for Sumble, worked Dutch signs, carved runic symbols. Dianne Luark Ross. Hail Dianne Ross!
Hail, Dianne Ross! One of those moments where it comes to mind, how do I follow that?
Right.
Following both of them. But I stand here today to represent the current administration of the Troth. As I said before, Edred and James, they were the founders of it, and they were the fathers of it. And if they were the fathers, then Dianne was the mother. She definitely played a role in the organization that continues to this day to have an effect on the culture within it. And so I think that probably the way, I'm going to have to read the quote here because I think that Stephen Grundy, otherwise known as Kveldor Gunderson, summarized her role succinctly. Dianne was the one who sustained my religious organization, the Ring of Troth, from the time it consisted of 5 guys and 1 girl in a drawing room. The 5 guys included one with a doctorate in runology, one who at the time was about to start his doctorate, and another who was midway through on Germanic art history. But for all of our intelligence and education, not one of us was functional enough to put a letter into an envelope and stamp it. She was Wendy to our lost boys. She was immensely dear to my heart in more ways than I can name. Without Dianne, there would be no Ring of Troth. Edward inspired it and Jim fathered it, but Dianne made everything work. We had several very bright and well-educated guys, and not one of us could have organized our way out of a net of herring. Dianne made the Ring of Troth a functional organization. Those sentiments resound throughout the Troth even now. And as I said, her handprint is very thick on the organization. Back in 1991, we looked this up, we had named her Troth Woman of the Year. And but that was just for all that she had done, but that was really just the beginning. Perhaps the most lasting imprint is the journal Idunna, which we have some of the original copies, which she had actually designed the covers of over there. We had I think I saw, the earliest one I saw here was issue 4 or something. Well, issue 116 is coming out as soon as I get my letter to Diana about today. That's a long run. It's a wonderful start, and it's still a very interesting and wonderful publication. The name itself is auspicious, because Idunna is represented here by this statuary, is the goddess who is associated with renewal and rejuvenation. She bears the apples that keep the gods and goddesses young, and Idunna is the patroness of the Troth. Hence her image being there, and also it's part of the Troth's logo, the apples. With Idunna as an inspiration, Dianne applied her talent to create that journal, and it sustained it through the decades. Since Dianne's passing, there's been a lot of conversation within the organization about who she was and what she meant to people. And certain words kept popping up and over again. Noble, wise, gracious, and kind. And I would have to say that gracious is the first word that comes to mind when I think of Dianne. All of those words certainly apply to my personal relationship with Dianne. Fast forward to Troth Moot 2012. Troth Moot is the annual business meeting of our organization, and 2012 was the 25th anniversary, and we flew in a whole bunch of elders from around the world to get together. That's where I first met James. And Dianne was, of course, among them. My first memory was at dinner that Friday night of Troth Moot weekend. She was seated at a table, and fortuitously, I ended up seated across from her. And she initiated conversation. She said, "You're Rob Shriver, aren't you?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah." I nodded. She said, "I'm Dianne Ross." And she was so pleasant. I felt honored that she knew who I was. It was just this year we had this elder, who just knows me. I was just new on the Reed from 2011, and then Reed is our board of directors from 2011, and it was very much an honor. We chatted for some time, and she had remarked about how she was following some of the things that I was writing in exploring Orglava, which is my denomination of heathenry, and that she had Pennsylvania German heritage, and she was interested in visiting various places while she was in Pennsylvania. And so she asked, "Do you have any suggestions of places that I may go?" And sure enough, I gave her a few, and the entire time that she was in Pennsylvania, you said that you had Laura had dropped her off at a friend's house in Lancaster, and from there they fanned out and visited other places. And Dianne was actually keeping me apprised of that and the things she was learning, and she was very excited about that. And when did she get to this next line?
2002 or 3?
She's long had an interest in her heritage, and I was glad to be able to help her seek out some information on that, including the symbols and what they mean to us and everything. So she would a few months after her visit, I went to the Heritage Center myself, and I walked in there. I knew the staff person who was there, and they immediately commented, "That lovely woman from Texas." They said, "You sent her here, right?" I was like, "Well, I referred her here," and she said, "Oh, she was just so kind." So in short, anywhere Dianne went, her grace and her kindness was irrepressible, and it was absolutely infectious. And not that she didn't have a rival sense of humor, mind you, but she definitely carried herself, in so many ways, in so many wondrous ways, and touched so many lives. She would periodically check in just to say hi, see how things are going, and she was always willing to lend a hand. Oftentimes, just the voice of support. "Hey, you guys are doing the right thing," and I appreciated that. She was always seeking to advance the organization and also to advance community. She was always looking for connections and possibilities of bringing people together. If she learned somebody was new to an area, she would see if she knew somebody in that area she might be able to hook them up with. And another thing is that she and I shared a birthday. And every year since Troth Moot 2012, she and I used to always contact, one of us would always contact the other on our birthday and say, "Hey, another year down, happy birthday." And I really do suspect that this year I'll miss that. I think that it's going to be one of those moments where it's going to be bittersweet. But I'm going to continue to wish her a happy birthday every year.
She would be 70. This will be her 70th.
and I'll be 53. So subtract it, we get a good age we both will be happy with. I'll continue to honor her on that night. So many heathens, myself included, believe that the souls of some who pass away continue to guide the lives of those who are left behind. Such spirits are often they're said to join a group of entities called the Disir, or the Idis, we call them in my language. They're tutelary spirits who actually protect people or guide people through their lives. And modern colloquial language you might be able to think of them as fairy godmothers or possibly guardian angels. And they're held in high honor throughout heathenry. And we believe that they watch out for those that they care about. Dianne has taken her place among the Disir for the Troth. She will continue to watch out for the organization, guide us with her wisdom, which she definitely had. And so she will continue to guide her family and her friends as well as the organization. Although she's passed from this realm, she is still remembered, and that which remembered lives. In the words of Papa Mao, or Sayings on the High 1, verse 77, this is on your little cards that we gave out today. Cattle die, kinsmen die, the self must also die. But one thing I mean that will never die, fair fame of he who has earned it. Dianne has earned her fame, and today we gather to express our well wishes for her and to honor this great lady. So hail Dianne Luark Ross. Thank you for gracing your lives, our lives with your presence. Hail!
Hail! Hail!
All of these things are true that all of these men have said. I remember her somewhat differently because she was my big sister and she made me laugh and we fought and we had times where we didn't speak to each other, and then she would come back into my life and everything would be okay, and she brought joy to most everyone I know that's in this room and almost everyone else whose life she touched. She cared very much about every issue she became involved with, about the downtrodden, the poor. I mean, she just cared to the nth degree about the people that were in her lives, all of you, certainly, because even though I don't know some of you, I know about you. I know how much she cared about you. And I just want you all to know that at the very end, she was that charming, childlike Dianne, that part of her that was just so innocent and sweet, and that smile. And she went very peacefully, and she loved every one of you. Hail Dianne.
Hail!
Hail Dianne!
Oops, not to that fast out. Yeah, I don't want to make a mess. And I'll say it again. Hail Dianne.
Hail!
Dianne!
That's a little tricky.
Dianne worked for me for about 30 years, and she was really good. I had some prepared remarks, but I think that really what I would like to say is that the last time I talked to her, I told her that she hadn't received the credit that she was due for all the litigation that we were involved in. And what she said was, it's all right, the results are what's important. And I think that's really the words that I want to say over her, is it's the results that were important. Anyway, hail Dianne.
Hail
Dianne.
I didn't know her as well as I would have liked to. Learned a few things here tonight just by being here to some more on. I really appreciate it. That in her memory, hail Wendy that gets things done.
Hail!
It's just so funny that, and it's in her voice. I did an interview with her and about a friend that had passed away, and all of those friends wanted to interview Dianne because she was very close to Harold Warford. And he was a lawyer, and he inspired her to go back to school in order to work with him. And so the interview is so funny. I don't even know how to say it without her words saying it, but I had some other things about my bookstore, which is where we met, etc. Books, a long time ago, 1970, so that means I'm pretty old. Dianne was always funny and challenging, and she had, I believe she really was acting most of the time. So, the challenge would be either, I can't do this, it's negative, or you would, rise up to the occasion with her and understand that she was pure in heart, and she was really trying to do something. She, at the last, said no more books, and yet she wanted to pay for all the books that I had given her as gifts through the years on her birthday. And I said, no, Dianne, they were gifts. And she said, oh no, I have to pay for them. And so I didn't know what to do but offer her more books. And she said, please, no more books. Please, please, no more books. And then at the last, I offered her one, and she said, yes, please. So she would change her mind like that, and very supportive of me through the years. Every place that I went to work, she would go and brag on me because I baked really well, and I went from the first natural foods restaurant, which was Greenwood. I don't know if you have been old enough to. Greenwood
So
Natural.
dishwasher over there.
I probably know you.
Yeah, you know me. I know you very well.
What's your name?
Nassim.
Oh, yeah. Now, see, she said she loved washing dishes when you went to the shop or to do something with that.
Right.
Oh, and see, I didn't make that connection until now.
Mom's second husband, Masood Moizi.
Oh, my goodness. And you have been through a lot of experience, too. And I won't even go into all that, but so then when I went to another job at Whole Foods Market, she would go over there and say, this woman was so good at the baking at the first natural food store in San Antonio, the Greenwood, and then she'd say, I have to quote her because her words are so much better than mine. She said, you are the most kind woman on the planet, to me. And I said, you're so funny, Dianne, but thank you for being so supportive. And she would call several of us dearest friend, right? And my dear woman, and things like that. She said, the first time I met you, there was a pad for taking orders in your hand. I often enjoyed washing dishes when Masood drove to Oklahoma to protest the shop. And that's a story I would like to hear.
Yes, exactly.
And then when they laid us off at Whole Foods Market, 1,500 people, she was so mad at Whole Foods. She said, they don't want me to go in there anymore. And I said, why? She said, don't even talk to me because, I told them, if they're going to get, you guys out of here, I will not come back, So she was protecting us there too. She always, when I was old enough to get Social Security, she went down there with me and asked the right questions. And I took all those notes, and when I asked her, she said, and she would ask things like, well, if Yvonne remarries, can she keep that Social Security? And she would ask questions like that. And then I asked her after my husband passed it, started the bookstore, if I could keep it. And she said, well, how old are you? And she said, yes, you can keep it after that age. So she was very knowledgeable about all those technical things. And yes, she did help a lot of people. Besides us, she helped anyone that needed support and that she knew how to help. But the interviews, one day after here, I couldn't make copies because our computers now don't have the second CD that you can copy from one CD to the other. And I don't know why, but technology is getting very complicated for me.
We can put it in when we complete.
Okay, then that would be best, because to hear her own voice speaking, it's just so funny. I can't even, anyway, I can't drink anything, but I celebrate her, and she was precious. Thank you.
Hail Diane.
Hail Diane.
Well, as her one and only beloved daughter, will not get through this without tears, but that's okay. There's a painting back there on the food table that she did, and I grew up looking at that painting above our couch on Eagle's Nest. On the back of it is the title of it. It's The Many Aspects of Love. And that it starts off with a row of hearts going upward, and they tilt in all the different colors and backgrounds and foregrounds until finally at the bottom, they're right side up again. And it makes me think of my mom so much because of her many aspects. You guys knew this other aspect of my mom that was always hidden. Well, I just didn't see it, right? I wasn't a part of it. I was a, teenager, bratty teenager, and then a bratty 20-something, and this was, let's be honest, it was just weird, right? It was just all weird, that weird thing Mom did, and the last few years, I, respect and wanted to learn and understand a bit more, but, they know an aspect of her that I didn't know, and since she's passed, I'm seeing all of these tributes come in that just reflect different aspects of my mom that I didn't see. So let me just tell you about the mom that I saw. She was fierce. She was larger than life. We all know that, right? So everything she did. She didn't get one, she didn't get two, she got four, right? And she was 4 times everything. And that was reflected in her love of me. She considered herself, and she called herself Mommy Bear. Now let me tell you, she took that role very seriously. She was Mommy Bear, and I was Baby Bear until the day she died. Things she did for me, just to share a few stories. As a kid, who here remembers her Volkswagen Bug? Okay, 67 Volkswagen Bug. We didn't have baby seats and seat belts. Nobody worried about that, right? No, my mom, she was dangerous, right? But she was fun. We would go flying over the railroad tracks on Weidner, and I was jumping up and down in the passenger seat as we would go, and the whole idea was to fly, right? We'd do it every single time. She was a blast. She also lined the back of the Volkswagen Bug with little cacti, all the way around, which was interesting for carpool day. Because she'd have, those bugs, the back seat would fold down, it was all flat in the back, that's how it always was. And we would always, all us kids would fight for who had to sit back there with the cactus. And she let me ride, now not in the Bug, but in the Fiat or something, I got to ride in the trunk of the car. with a flashlight, my comic books, and my dog. And then we would get to wherever we were going, and my parents would get out of the car and open up the trunk, and I would come out. I mean, imagine if you saw that. She protected my spirit growing up because it could have been crippled. I had a little dog, Grace, named Percy, and this older girl who was really mean thought it would be fun to tease the dog and have it swim across our little above-ground pool. And my mom saw and came out and rescued the dog, and it lived. It miraculously lived, and I grew up with that story. And then as an adult, I hear the rest of the story from my dad, who breaks it to me that, oh yeah, remember when Percy died and your mom ran out and got another puppy? And we replaced it. They switched the puppy out, okay, so that I wouldn't have to live as a 5-year-old with the knowledge that I killed my dog. I mean, that would have just messed me up for life, I'm sure. You know, later, I mean, we sold Mexican dresses on the side of the road a lot. Mac, her sister, is wearing one. She's the one who found the ad in the paper to shine shoes, and she would pick me up every night at the Holiday Inn at 11 o'clock. She would pull up, her car would be right in front of the hotel while I was shining shoes, and my customers knew Mama Bear was sitting right out there, or even sitting in the lobby watching the first couple of nights, which was kind of weird. And then later, when I took a summer job working for Oscar in the law office with a shoe shine background and some data entry for good old Dad, my boss gives me this task to type up some documents on WordPerfect, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. So Mom said, come on downtown, come down to Troth, and we spent all night long, her teaching me on WordPerfect, and we got those documents out. And of course, my boss thought I was great, you know, didn't tell him about Mom. She contributed so much, obviously. Who I am is so much of probably the best and worst of my mom, because, you know, there was that duality to her. There's a duality to all of us, right? There was mystery to my mom. And, you know, sometimes I honestly didn't know what to think of her. You know, sometimes she scared the hell out of me, I'll just be honest. But I'm just so grateful that you're all here and that this has all come together and that you honor these aspects of my mom just as I know that she would want. I mean, look at her. You know, another thing I just have to share, she endured more pain physically and emotionally than any of us here will ever understand. And she was strong, right? And I watched her go through so many surgeries. And this is what she would do. She'd come out of surgery, she'd be all like drugged up and all this stuff, you know, like, oh, she's gonna make it. And then she'd wake up and I'd be like, hey Mom, you made it. And she'd be like, and then she'd go. Just like that, within a second of coming out of waking up, she would just, because no matter what she went through, she was still so joyous, right? She was just full of life and joy, and right to the end, you know, I've heard it said that like even sunshine burns when you get too much, and I did struggle with my mom's borderline obsessive love. We jokingly called her stalker mommy. And we did stalk Winnie the Pooh, by the way. When Winnie the Pooh would come to town to the local libraries, it wasn't enough to just go to the library and see Winnie the Pooh. No, we followed him to every library in town to see Winnie the Pooh. And it wasn't, we didn't just go to the circus. We went to the circus train, and she made sure we were there to greet the animals when they got off the train. She was an amazing mom. I am so fortunate to have had her. I am so sorry, for any shortfallings. She did her best with me, and I did my best as her daughter. Thank you all for being here.
Hail
Helped and we chatted. I learned from Dianne the history, and just in being in her home, all these books that she had stacked on her shelves, and I would always be very curious, and I'd pull them out and look at these books and the runes, and of course it's something I had never heard before, and I didn't understand it, so I would try to read it, and I knew she had so many about just history out there in the world, and but this was something new to me. And then I know in her room she's got this picture, and it's at the Troth. And I would look at it, and I really didn't understand the words and the language, and I just would look at it and trying to figure out what it meant, and it would take me days and weeks and months and just trying to figure it out. It was too complicated, a little bit over my head. A couple years later, I think it was probably, it was recently after she had passed away, I had found this book. And I was looking at this book, which the wording in it, the runes and what it meant, it was a head scratcher for me. And I realized, this is something that she was into, and I tried to memorize it, and I couldn't, and I had to put it aside because I couldn't pick it up. I do know 2 languages. I know Portuguese and Dutch, sign language, and it's something that I've been interested in. But I got into the Portuguese language when I was probably about 16 or so, and then wanted to start learning Dutch, which I started trying to learn through the internet, and purchased a couple books from the bookstore called, Barnes and Noble. One of my favorite places to go, which is also Diane's, one of her favorite places to go. And, I was just trying to study that. I started that back in October of 2011. I haven't been studying as much as I should have, just because, life happens. And, sometimes Dianne, the 2 of us, we'd go out, we'd have a good time, we'd go out and have dinner. There was this restaurant, I don't know if you guys know this one, I don't remember what it was called. Tip Top.
Yeah, the Top Cafe.
Yeah, that's right, that's it, yes, Tip Top Cafe. And we'd go there every once in a while. And then we probably stopped going about a year or 2 ago. And sometimes we'd go to this Mexican restaurant, Panchitos, thank you. And we go to all these places, and her sense of humor was great. We chatted, and really, when I would speak with Dianne, we have the same interest, and I know she would talk about Laura and the art. We'd go to the art museum and the art fair, and just look around. And it was really interesting. The 3 of us would go. I think one time it was just Dianne and I. Special art show over Southwest San Antonio area.
Southwest Craft Show.
Yes, that's it. Southwest. And I remember going, and it was in the evening, and I remember thinking I didn't have a good enough jacket on. But Dianne and I, we met up there, and some other lady, I didn't know who she was, met her and introduced myself. And I don't think I caught what her name was, but I found out that she was also an artist, and she had done oil paintings, and they were really good. And we went in and looked around, and I guess it wasn't really a house, but kind of an older building. It was tilted. The floor wasn't level. So I felt like, it's kind of walking with a limp, and went outside and looked at the house again. I mean, it was neat, but it was painted different colors and
The Liberty Bar. Yeah.
I think that's what it was, yeah, the older house looking location, yeah. Yeah, and just going in and, I didn't even know it was a bar, I just was thinking that it was a house and the floor was tilted and seeing all the pictures and of course what they were selling and what was up on the wall, there was 2 pictures. And I looked over and I thought, oh no, it was so crazy because Dianne, she was crazy, she didn't care, she would just, she purchased the pieces of art. It was a guy from California. He wanted $600 for it, and so she negotiated. And she said $300, and he tried to up it to $400. And she was almost broke, and I was like, "No, save your money." But she went ahead and purchased it, and it was probably about that big. And it's part of like some sort of like fashion type of thing. And it was a little strange to me, but it was black with clothing and. She liked it, and it was cool. It was cool. But she purchased it, and she hung it up in her dining room, and I think it's up there still up on the top next to her china cabinet, or on top of her china cabinet. And I saw that it was still up there, and then I know inside that Liberty Bar, I remember thinking it was so cold, and they had, nice little buffet, just like what we've got here, and so, I was eating. Kitchen was really nice, and I met new friends, and I just walked around, and I guess maybe I was a little bit in a mood that night. She was talking to everybody, and I was thinking, I gotta go home. It's so cold, and I think we were probably there for an hour or 2, and we finally ended up leaving, but. I think there's been about 3 times, my mother has been able to chat with Dianne and make that connection. And I noticed that Dianne was brilliant. She knew so much. And my sister Anne was fortunate enough to talk with Dianne every once in a while. I don't think she liked Dianne. So, I didn't care about that. I just kind of, my sister remarked. But, I wanted to show my respect to Dianne. I understood her, but my sister and my mother, I told her, it's not your business, I'm used to her. I like chatting with her. Of course, we would write back and forth. Sometimes I would read her lips. I grew up at a oral private school. I learned sign language when I was 12 years old from the West Virginia school. And, like I said, we would chat every once in a while, and, sometimes I worked part-time at Girling Healthcare, and I would work there every once in a while, like I said, just part-time. And there was a lady there, and I guess she had somebody in her family had passed away, and Dianne had told her, I could go home. This lady, her family was from North Texas. And this lady had been there for about a week or so. And Dianne had sent her home, and sometimes it would just be, like I said, I worked there off and on, and I did some work for Dianne as well. Sometimes she would be sick or not well, and I'd ask her what she needed. And I think one time it was probably last March or April. Just this year, I had asked her, hey, do you want anything? You want some breakfast? Let me know. You want some eggs? And I didn't, I'm not a professional, and I told her, I wrote it down. I told her, I'm not a chef. And she looked at me and like, okay. And so, I went off, and I made her some eggs, plated it, and I knew that Dianne, she would always tell me, go slow. And I tell her, if I go slow, you gotta cook them fast, otherwise they're gonna burn. That's been my experience. So I plated it, brought her the eggs, and I gave it to her, and I said, here you go. And she started eating it, and she said, they don't taste all that great. And I told her, I was like, well, I can't help it. I'm not a professional. They're just eggs. They're so fussy. So I just, yeah, okay, here you go. And, you know, sometimes I would get frustrated and I give it to her and special K. I ended up giving her some special K. I asked her, is this okay? And, and when I had worked with her, you know, I did home or healthcare, and you know that's a really tough job, you know, and you're taking care of people and just taking care of them, and I did that pretty often. And I know when somebody would pass away, I had told her one time we were planning on changing somebody, and I was looking for a bag, found it, and looking for my gloves, I couldn't find it. And so the lady had worked for Girl in Health. I had asked her, I said, you know, I can't find these gloves. I've been looking everywhere for them. Where's the box for them? I guess we're out. And, you know, just trying to look for them, can't find them. Looking all over the place. I still don't have gloves on my hands. And I'm thinking, okay, I guess I'm just going to grab some toilet paper. And I've got toilet paper wrapped around my hands and, you know, taking care of the patient. And, you know, just doing what I need to do. And, okay, I think that's all. But gather my thoughts here. What else? But I know Dianne in her books, when the time was getting near, Dianne wanted me to clean up. Or I guess the porch by her bedroom. So I was cleaning it up for her and straightening it out and just kind of cleaning out the clutter. And I noticed all these books that I would find, and I was telling Laura, I said, your mother, her house is also a library. And I remember sometimes when I would chat with Dianne, you know, about work, and sometimes when I would help out at her house and repair stuff, because I'm also a handyman as well. So I was fixing her windowsills, and I was outside. It was 101 degrees, super hot. I was fixing her windowsills and painting. And I think it was for about 4 of her rooms: the kitchen, the dining room, living room, and the bathroom. So I was working on all of that for her. And I didn't understand why Dianne, she wanted the windows green. So that's what she wanted. So I told her, okay. And got it done, and that was last December. Okay.
Hail Dianne.
Yeah.
Dianne.
Before I say anything else, does anybody else have anything else to come up today also?
Oh, praise God.
Dianne Ross was a wonderful person. I've only known her since I was 10. I just wanted to say she was a very wonderful person. And thank you.
Hail Dianne.
All Father Odin, the all-giving God, rage giver, room winner, rider of Yggdrasil, guard now and guide thee in Valhalla, the fallen who fare to feast in your hall. Swift Sleipnir's bride, speed through the 9 worlds, lead home to the feast, fastest farer, far fairer, the shield mate who strides over Rainbow Bridge. This Brocky blessed woman, whose name we call Dianne, prepared is your place at the table. Comes the reward for all your striving. Let beer now flow freely from barrels as you join the heroes at Odin's board. From wandering to wonder, from woe to bliss, from Midgard's madness, hard on heroes. Warriors greet one who fought for justice. Welcome the wanderer to warrior's call. Hail Dianne!
Hail Dianne!
Because we're on the second floor, I'm not going to take the bowl out now. I'll take it down afterwards. I have one more offering to give to Dianne. Dan's going to bring the box around. You may touch it, give your final blessings. In the meantime, the rest of us may sing the song that is on page 6. I'll sing the rest. You guys can chime in at the bold part. On this day, we'll remember all. You will part and we will stay, and God receive thy soul. When from here you are passed, we'll remember all. To the tree you'll come at last, and God receive thy soul. When from the tree you are passed, we'll remember all. To the well you'll come at last, and God's receive thy soul. When from the well you have passed, we'll remember all. The rainbow bridge you'll see at last, and God's receive thy soul. When the bridge you have passed, we'll remember all. To Asgard you'll come at last, and God's receive thy soul. Heimdall will lead you in, we'll remember all. Welcome you as friend and kin, and God's receive thy soul. Frigga's house shining bright, we'll remember all. Fire and warmth and candlelight, and God's receive thy soul. With Frey, Odin, and Thor, we'll remember all. You will be forevermore, and God's receive thy soul. Aesir all, Vanir all, we'll remember all. You'll be home in every hall, and God's receive thy soul. On this day, we'll remember all. You'll arrive and we will stay, and God's receive thy soul. And part of our tradition is that at the end of funeral rites, birch in some form or another is sprinkled onto the body of those who are grieving. So, following that tradition, if there's anybody who absolutely does not want to have any birch water on them, let me know when I come by and just say, shake your head, it won't stain, it's all clear. But birch is related in our traditions to the goddesses Hola and Berka, and they are goddesses of the rebirth, goddesses of the return. And removing the stain of death, the negativity of death and loss. And with that in mind, I will follow our traditions. Hail Dianne.
Hail Dianne.
I think we all really enjoy hearing some of the stories, and the cactus thing is gonna probably live with us for quite some time. There has to be some way that we can get that has got to go in the story somewhere. Dianne is, or was perhaps up until now, one of those unsung heroes. She definitely has made such a difference in so many lives. I think many of us are discovering aspects of her that we're not aware of before. And I think we'll all take a little bit of that with us today when we leave here. You know, talk about laugh at the funny things that she did. You know, cry at the moments that you feel like you're missing her, or you feel the loss in your heart. But just remember, she's still looking out for you. She still cares. May we be worthy of that caring as we go forward in our lives. Hail Dianne!
Hail Dianne!